Today, we are going to fake a Windows crash using pure C# WinForms. And honestly, this looks way too real. Look at this. Fake blue screen. Memory dump. Screen flickering. Even the text is shaking like the PC is literally dying. And the craziest part? This is just a normal WinForms app. No game engine. No WPF. No DirectX. Just classic C#. So let's build this thing step by step. First, we create a completely full screen form. No borders. No title bar. Always on top. Exactly like a real system crash. After the project is created, we can jump directly into the code section of the form. That means no dragging controls onto the form. No designing a complicated layout. No wasting time in the designer. Everything gets created directly inside the code. And honestly, this makes the entire project much easier to follow. You can literally see every single step happening line by line exactly like I do in this example. So first, let's create a few labels and a timer that we'll use later inside the project. After that is done, we'll create a brand new method directly under the initialize component part inside the constructor. This keeps the code clean, organized, and super easy to understand even for complete beginners. So inside the setup method, I maximize the form. Remove the border. Enable top, most. And change the background color to the classic Windows XP blue. And yes, this blue color is very close to the original XP blue screen. Now let's run it. And boom! We already have the fake crash screen. This already looks surprisingly real. But right now, it still feels too static. So let's improve it. Now we hide the mouse cursor. Because once the cursor disappears, people immediately panic. And honestly, that tiny detail changes everything. Now we create the main label fully in code. This label fills the entire screen. Then we style it. White text, blue background, Lucida console font. And this is important. Lucida console instantly gives that old Windows XP feeling. Then we paste in the fake error text. And suddenly, this already feels like an actual operating system crash. Especially for people who survived the Windows XP era. This screen caused real trauma back then. And honestly, if you used Windows XP, you probably saw this screen at least once. Usually after installing random drivers, downloading something questionable, or plugging in a printer from 2002. Back then, seeing this screen meant your entire evening was ruined. Now it's just nostalgia. Now we create the second label. This label becomes the fake system status message at the bottom of the screen. And honestly, this small detail makes the whole blue screen feel way more real. Dock it to the bottom of the form and give it a height of 60. After that we style it. White text. Blue background. Lucida console font. Exactly like the classic Windows XP style. Then we add some padding so the text isn't glued to the border. And finally we set the default text to collecting data for crash dump. Now we prepare the timer called dump. This timer waits 3 seconds before triggering an event. And this is where WinForms becomes really powerful. Because instead of manually updating the UI, the timer does it automatically for us. Then we connect the tick event to our tick method. So later we can update the text dynamically. After that we connect 2 important form events. The load event. This runs automatically when the form opens. Perfect for starting timers and effects. And then, the key down event. Because we definitely need an escape button for this fake crash screen. We will use ESC to close the application safely. After that we have to add the controls to the form. Now let's handle the keyboard input first. Inside the key down event, we check if the user presses the ESC key. And if ESC is pressed, we show the mouse cursor again and close the application. This is super important for full screen applications like this. Because without an exit key, your fake blue screen suddenly becomes a real problem. Next we use the form load event. This event runs automatically when the application starts. And this is the perfect place to start our effects and timers. So when the form opens, everything immediately begins running in the background automatically. This makes the fake crash screen feel alive the second it appears. And finally, we have the timer tick event. This method runs automatically after the timer interval finishes. In our case, after 3 seconds, we change the bottom text to physical memory dump complete. Then we stop the timer. And that small text update adds a lot of realism. Because now the screen feels like it is actually processing something in real time. Now let's make this fake crash screen feel much more realistic. Because right now, the bottom text is still static. And real Windows crash screens always had some kind of loading process running. So we're going to create a fake memory dump percentage system. And honestly, this tiny feature adds a huge amount of realism. First we create another timer called percentage. Then we set the interval to 100 milliseconds. So every 1/10 of a second, the timer updates automatically. After that we connect the tick event to our %_tick method. And finally, we start the timer. So now the fake loading system starts running immediately when the application launches. Now let's create the actual percentage logic. Inside the %_tick method, the first thing we do is increase the dump % variable. So every timer tick, the percentage goes up automatically. Then we update the bottom label text. And now the screen displays dumping physical memory to disk, followed by the live percentage value. And this is where the fake blue screen suddenly starts feeling real. Because now something is actively happening on the screen. Then we check if the percentage reaches 100. And once it does, we stop the timer. Because the fake memory dump is complete. Then we update the text one final time to physical memory dump complete. And honestly, this little animation effect makes the entire application feel 10 times more believable. Especially for anyone who remembers old Windows XP crashes. Let's run it again. And now look at this. The percentage counter keeps updating. Exactly like the old Windows crash screens. This already looks way more convincing. And the funny thing is, it's literally just a label changing text. That's the magic of desktop programming. Tiny details create huge visual impact. Now it's time to make this fake crash screen feel really broken. Because right now, it still looks too stable. And real system crashes are never stable. So we're going to add screen flickering and screen shaking. And this completely changes the feeling of the application. First, we create 2 new timers. One for the flicker effect. And one for the shake effect. Then we also create a boolean called flicker state. This helps us switch between 2 different blue colors over and over again. And finally, We create a random object. Because randomness makes the shaking feel much more natural. Now inside the setup method, we initialize the flicker timer. We set the interval to 120 milliseconds. So every tiny fraction of a second, the screen updates automatically. Then we connect the tick event and start the timer. And now the flicker system is running in the background permanently. After that, we do the same thing for the shake effect. We create another timer. Set the interval to 40 milliseconds. Connect the tick event. And start it. And honestly, this is where the fake blue screen suddenly becomes creepy. Now let's create the shake effect itself. Inside the shake timer _ tick method, we generate tiny random X and Y positions. Only a few pixels. Then we move both labels slightly around the screen. And because this happens super fast, the text starts shaking constantly. It almost looks like the graphics card is failing. And this effect is way more powerful than you would expect. Now for the flicker effect. Inside the flicker timer _ tick method, we constantly switch between two blue colors. One normal blue. And one slightly darker blue. Then we update the form background, the main label and the bottom label together. And because this happens every few milliseconds, the entire screen starts flickering like an old broken monitor. This tiny visual effect adds so much atmosphere. Now let's run the final version. And look at this thing. The screen is flickering. The text is shaking. The memory dump is running. And honestly, this feels way too real for a simple WinForms app. This is why I still love desktop development. People think WinForms is outdated. But you can still create incredibly fun and creative projects with it. Especially weird projects like this. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more crazy C# experiments. And if you have ideas for even more cursed projects, write them in the comments. Maybe next time we build a fake computer virus in C#. See you in the next video.